This top 10 fantasy football running backs edition of the Sports Gambling Podcast is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. You can win up to 325 times your entry with their new Pick 8. Sign up with SGPN to claim your special pick and first-time deposit offer up to $250 in bonus cash. UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code SGPN. We're also brought to you by Rhythm. Get the best data-driven props and picks from Rhythm. Claim your 7-day free trial by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM.
Cox. He's one of those guys who will get penetration.
Welcome, everyone, to the Sports Gambling Podcast. I'm Sean, stacking the money green with my partner in picks, Ryan, Real Money Kramer. What's happening, Kramer? Dog.
And Vegas, Viva Las Vegas, Sean.
Viva Las Vegas, coming to you live from the great Circa. Just knocked out our VSiN shift. Of course, check us out this week, Monday. Today, missed Monday, but Tuesday and Wednesday, 3 o'clock Pacific, 6 o'clock East. Fun show, hitting on a bunch of NFL futures. Even gave out some soccer plays, which unfortunately don't look great. Soccer sucks. But how we doing, Kramer?
You're good. I mean, just talked about sports for 3 hours. Now I'm going to talk about football for another hour.
But now we can
good.
say fuck, which is pretty awesome. Can't say that on VSiN. So you get the
Yep.
uncensored here. And we got to talk to Brian Baldinger, which was pretty awesome. Kramer's talking about Hammerhead Sharks. Shout out to the chat.
I did know that I was 100% going to bring up his free diving escapades when we talked to him, and he was excited to talk about it. So shout out Baldy.
Yeah, we got him on. Honestly, I just want to hear him get excited about Jalen Carter, and we'll be sprinkling him Defensive Player of the Year 100-1. We got some college football conference futures episodes. Those are going to be airing next week. Kramer and I are going to be doing a little traveling, but doesn't mean we're not going to have you locked down with some sweet content. Taped all those with Pick Dundee himself, Colby. And if you're not on Patreon, the bonus episode, the Bobby Petrino Forensic Files, all-timer, make sure you check out the video as well. That was a super fun episode. So get in the Patreon, check that out. And WNBA Gambling Podcast. If you're looking for some live action, you got golf, you got MMA, NASCAR, WNBA. Scott and Terrell have been on a heater there. I know Terrell kept tweeting out his lock record, and it was insane. So if you're looking for some sweats, make sure you check that out. I see Joe in the YouTube chat saying sharing a bunk bed room. No, we have not ever booked a bunk bed room here at Circa, Ryan. Maybe for contest weekend, we can talk to Derek about getting the bunk bed room. We are in separate rooms. It makes it actually a little bit easier for the podcast, but maybe one day we get the bunk bed room.
Do they have a bunk bed? Is that a thing?
Oh, yeah. You don't know about the bunk bed room?
Are you talking about like the bachelor party room where you can stuff like 20
but
dudes?
They have bunk beds. If Josh can I don't know, can Josh pull up photos when we're remote like this? Josh, maybe you can track down the bunk bed room. But yeah, I guess it's for a bachelor party. Seems pretty fun. Easy.
I will say, as someone who's looked for those types of rooms, it really is hard to find a room where look at that. It is hard to find a room where, like, because basically dudes don't care, and you just want to stuff as many. Like when we back in the day when we would be staying.
Kramer, where were these in our prime 20s?
Well, in fairness, Sean, we used to get. I would get more. Two.
Yes, we did. We did our hobo bunk beds.
I mean, we had 2 adjoining suites at the Venetian, and we would fit like, I don't know, 12 to 15 people in there. So the bunk beds are a nice touch. It's very ski lodge.
Yeah. But it reminds me of Step Brothers. Can we get bunk beds? We'll have way more room for activities. Step Brothers is an all-timer. That thing still holds up. If you get a chance, Go back, watch some Step Brothers and Old School. Still very good. I mean, that scene when Will Ferrell takes the dart to the neck, just so good. Kramer, I don't know if your older daughter could watch some. I mean, maybe both of them could. Those are two classics. You got to get them to watch.
She's she's like watching Shameless and shit. There's nothing.
Yeah, I guess the idea of rubbing your balls on your stepbrother's drum set may not appeal to a teenage girl's sense of humor, but so good. Oh, Easy's in the chat. Shout out to Easy and his Detroit Lions. Nick Fortune saying, I can't wait to hear how Sean is not going to put CMC on his top 10 running back list. Well, stay tuned. Maybe he's in there. Maybe he isn't. We did add a just miss category this year for the top 10 fantasy lists. Of course, go back, check out the quarterbacks, tight ends if you haven't had a chance already. Kramer, let's see. What do we got here? Yeah, why don't you kick things off?
Yeah, I feel like it's not as as fun of a category because it's running back's all about the projectable volume, and it's just hard to get cute with some of these. Unless you're going to be like Sean and have a full laundry list of who is and isn't going to get hurt. Of course, he did come back from the same time machine that Mr. John McAfee was referring to, and maybe people aren't up to speed. Anyway. Not up to speed with the
deep state stuff for the other show, Rod.
Well, top 10 fantasy running backs. We might as well mention the time traveler. But how do you not put McCaffrey here? He crushed everyone in so many of the statistical categories: volume, efficiency, touched. Everything's there. They might lose one of their stud receivers if that doesn't work out well. Although I think we both think Ayuk will be playing for the Niners this year. But yeah, I mean, even if the Niners don't have a good year, we've seen McCaffrey be successful on bad teams as well. And if Brock Purdy regresses, I have a feeling that there's a chance that there's more junk to McCaffrey. So I love McCaffrey. I think if you're drafting best ball right now and you're drafting 1-1, probably have to take McCaffrey because it's the only chance you're getting him.
Well, Ryan, all right. I guess I should. I'll reveal my number one. My number one is not Christian McCaffrey. It's a guy by the name of Jonathan Taylor. That's right. I'm going JT for my number one pick here. The more I think about it, the more I like this Colts offense. Good offensive line. He closed the season really strong. Just kind of a stud guy. Like their offensive line. Like some of the game scripts that they're going to be playing in. Doesn't have a lot of competition behind him. We just talked about most rushing yards market on VSiN. You said you like the price of Jonathan Taylor 6-1. So Jonathan Taylor is my number one fantasy football running back. These, of course, are half point PPR, underdog fantasy style. So yeah, give me Jonathan Taylor number one.
It seems I like the cuteness of this, and I think I'm kind of I don't necessarily disagree with you. We'll get to where I have Jonathan Taylor later, but it does seem like his ceiling is very, very high this year, assuming he's not cursed from the Zoom call with the running backs last year. We don't know.
Curse a lot.
Go ahead.
Oh, I said that did curse a lot of them.
No, I mean, who knows? It could be a delayed curse. We don't know how long the curse could. I mean, Barkley. There's some guys who still haven't been caught by the I Know What You Did Last Summer or whatever that movie where everyone dies is. But no, yeah, number two. I thought about putting Taylor number two. Thought it would be cute. You one-upped me, so I'm glad I didn't do it. I would have looked foolish. Number two is Breece Hall. I'm fully bought in on the idea that whether it's he led the running backs in yak last year or the fact that if this offense has competent quarterback play, the likelihood that his touchdown regression could see him easily get into double digits, to that ceiling of 15 that you need to have. But really, the reason I like him this year is just that the explosiveness, the big play nature of it. A little bit more skewed towards best ball right now, which is probably why I have him slightly higher. But for me, I'm fine with a coin flip there in the middle of the first round between him and Garrett Wilson in terms of your favorite Jets guy. So Breece Hall, number two, scared a little bit because he always has that injury history, but man, the explosiveness is there. And like I said, that yak number is really eye opening. And if he's working that much in the pass game this year, he's certainly going to be contending.
Okay. Yeah, I'd see the case for Brees Hall. I don't have him quite number 2. My number 2, now this is probably controversial.
Well,
And,
real quick, Sean, real quick.
yes,
Where do you think Brees Hall, like where did Brees Hall finish last year?
it's a great question.
In
I would say now we're talking points per game or total points.
half points, half PPR, total points.
Say fifth,
Fourth.
fourth.
So it's
Yeah.
like, oh my goodness. He did all of that with only 5 touchdowns in the rushing game. Granted, he got 4 in the passing game, but that number could very easily grow to 15 total touchdowns.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I like Brees Hall. I guess I don't know. It's still the Jets. I still feel like I have to factor that in. The Jets suck. For me, number 2. Now this one is high risk, high ceiling, but Derrick Henry. He only had 280 attempts last year, and I don't think obviously he's not going to have a pass catching role, but this Ravens offense, they just give it to the running backs anytime they get inside the 5, and he is going to have no competition in that vein. I mean, you look at Lamar Jackson. The only reason he isn't even a bigger stud for fantasy is because he doesn't get the rushing touchdowns. Derrick Henry is going to have an insane amount of carries inside the 5-yard line. So I don't. You could make a case he's number 1 if he gets hot on some of these touchdowns. And certainly, the more I think about it, he's definitely a guy after doing this list that I need to have more of in best ball. I mean, he's had 17, 16 touchdown seasons, and that was off a crazy amount of attempts. I think he's going to get there fantasy-wise because of his efficiency near the goal line. So, yeah, give me our good buddy Derrick Henry at number 2.
I felt like similar process where it's like, wow, you go through it and you're like, he finished 8th overall last year. Really, really tremendously bad season. It looked very washed at times. And now he's going to a team that desperately wants a red zone running back because they lost Gus Edwards and they don't want Lamar running the ball into the end zone. And yeah, I mean, Derrick Henry should pretty comfortably end up again, he finished 8th last year. So if there's a little bit of touchdown regression there, not ridiculous. Again, I thought I had him decently ranked, but not as high as you. Again, we'll get to him later.
No, it's interesting. I see Luke Gaming saying he's cooked, and I see that case, and there was definitely times where I kind of thought he was, but look at Raheem Mostert. Raheem Mostert is kind of a veteran guy that's always hung around. Luke Gaming is saying Keaton Mitchell. Are you worried about him? No, I think they brought in Derrick Henry because they've made a decision at an organizational level of, hey, we don't want Lamar Jackson running into the end zone. We don't want him taking those shots. We don't want him doing. I don't even think he's like a QB sneak guy. I don't have any memories of him being a QB sneak guy. Right, Kerr?
Yeah, I mean but I do think we've kind of discussed this. The reason that Derrick Henry looked washed last year, and he's 6th on my list, by the way, but the reason he looked washed last year is because that downhill, he wasn't able to get downhill because the offensive line was so bad last year for the Titans. The situation was bad. A lot of things were off. Now, think about the read option with Lamar. Lamar gets the lineman moving side to side. All of a sudden, Derrick Henry has that extra step to get going up to speed. And if he's able to get downhill, to your point, if he has, let's say he doesn't get 280 carries, and he drops to 220 even, but he gets 12 touchdowns because this offense is going to be in the red zone. He's going to be right there in the middle of the top 10. And, again, more of a best ball statement, but the way the running backs are being drafted this year, there is some value in this, call it tier 2 of backs, where the second round is this like wasteland of receivers I don't really want to draft. And I think same thing you said. I think I'm going to have to start drafting Derrick Henry a little bit more. All right. Number 3. What's up?
Live. I was going to say, we're coming to you live from Circa Las Vegas. Great read. I mean, it's an awesome place to come visit, but you should come out and sign up for the Circa Millions contest, Circa Survivor. They're giving away $16 million in guaranteed prizes. That is just an amazing opportunity. These contests are so fun, and Derek is a class act. You've heard him on our show. Good dude. and they don't take a rake. So imagine running a contest where there's no rake, 60 million in guaranteed prizes. You can sign up in Las Vegas or Reno. But again, it's a great excuse. Come out here, make a weekend of it. We're doing the contest, the big contest weekend, August 22nd through 24th. That's a good time. We're going to be out here a bunch. Come say hi, crack a couple cold ones with us, and, get in some futures, sign up for the contest. And you can play from anywhere, literally anywhere in the globe, as long as you got internet access and a proxy. A proxy basically puts the picks in for you. We got to deal with one of those as well. Football contest proxy, promo code SGP, get you $50 off. But get in, join the contest. They are super fun. Circasports.com.
All right, number 3. We were earlier discussing on VSiN the most rushing yards markets, and we heard a clip from Bijan Robinson talking about how this year he's going to be used more like Christian McCaffrey. Great unintentional dig at Arthur Smith, but yeah, I mean, I can talk myself, if you want to get me into which one of these Atlanta skill position guys I like the most. It's not Drake London and it's not Kyle Pitts. If you're watching this show, you've heard me draft Darnell Mooney and Rondell Moore a couple times, but it's Bijan Robinson because we've seen running backs in this system have great success. We've seen bell cow running backs in this system have success. And so, I mean, look at Kyron Williams last year, someone who doesn't possess the near athletic ability of Bijan Robinson, but had hyper efficiency in the red zone and the touchdowns were there. And he ended up being the highest scoring running back, points per game, easily. And so when you talk about, like, this kind of ends the list to me of the guys who can end up being the number one back, I think. Just from a pure, like, their volume is going to be insane. The passing game volume is going to be insane. We remember that drone slow motion video game replay of Bijan Robinson. I think we're going to see a lot more of that this year. And, I think the more that I think about it, again, these running backs are falling because people are so happy to be a piss boy drafting wide receivers. and Bijan is going to have some serious workload. And so, yeah, McCaffrey, Breece Hall, and Bijan are kind of the top tier for me.
Checking in with the chat, they noticed my humidifier pumping out sweet humid H2O. No, that is not Kramer's humidifier. There was some question as to whether or not I was hotboxing the room, or Kramer's going to get up and show off his humidifier. I did have to borrow Ryan's essential oil pad so that I can use the. Ryan doesn't use the essential oils. He's really missing out on the true humidifier experience. I got some eucalyptus in there. It is pretty sweet. Easy saying we need to get Kramer a half Giants, half Falcons jersey for this year. Kramer, I am for my number 3 running back, I'm going to a former New York Giant. Give me Saquon Barkley. Ryan, I do see the appeal of rooting with the guy with the amazing quads. I mean, he was 9th in fantasy points per game last year on a dog shit team, dog shit offense. This Eagles team has a very good ceiling. Kellen Moore, can get the running backs going. I don't think he's going to have to really compete with Kenny Gainwell, Will Shipley. Maybe they come on late. Assuming Saquon stays healthy, which I am projecting a healthy year for Saquon Barkley, knock on wood. I think this is a very good situation for him. I'm high on the Eagles offense. I think they're going to put up some points. And the offensive line is still very good. I know it's going to be tough to replace Jason Kelce, but they're still going to be able to move some guys up front. So give me Saquon Barkley, number 3.
He was, yeah. There's a lot more weapons on the offense he's on now. That would be the pushback, I guess. But yeah, because he was the only offense for the team.
Well, that is the balance on some of these. It's like more mouths to feed, but also having better skill players. You're going to project some more touchdowns and more opportunities, right? You're running more offensive plays. You're controlling the time of the line of scrimmage, the time of possession. So. Yeah, I think that's a fair counter, but I still like him, and I don't know. It really will be interesting to see what happens at the goal line, and I still think they're going to use the tush push to some degree, but I think Barkley's going to get his opportunities inside the 5, inside the 10.
Yeah, that's the part that breaks down, right? Because better offense and running backs correlate to their offense. The difference is most running backs don't have Jalen Hurts or Justin or Josh Allen. It's not like Lamar, like we talked about earlier. These guys are true like running back threats in the red zone. So, and honestly, you probably have to say the same thing about the Jonathan Taylor, Anthony Richardson piece too, because it's that touchdown bit will probably be what helps you become the top 3 guy or just be a
I mean, but then sometimes it's weird. Like I feel like rushing quarterbacks, a true rushing quarterback like Anthony Richardson, I think does kind of help because the way you have to play a rushing quarterback, I think does create some opportunities in the running game as well. So it is a playing with fire a little bit, but yeah, give me Saquon. Who's your number 4, Kramer?
It's Jonathan Taylor. I think if I was going to talk myself into having a 4th guy in the top tier, it's Jonathan Taylor. The reason I didn't is Anthony Richardson. You see how badly they want to use him around the red zone and why he could be a beast. I mean, he's going to score touchdowns with his legs. He's going to take touchdowns away from Jonathan Taylor. I still think the offense could produce, if the offense hits, it's going to put up a lot of points and a lot of yards. And so do I think Jonathan Taylor will be the top fantasy guy on the Colts if that happens? Probably. Michael Pittman's fun. We really like Michael Pittman in some of the long shot markets, yardage, even offensive player of the year. But yeah, Jonathan Taylor is still going to be the dude. I just worry about the touchdowns, and that's why he's not in the top tier. He's number 4. Love drafting him at the beginning of the 2nd round.
Number 4 for me is guy we haven't talked about yet, Jahmyr Gibbs. Again, another good offensive line, high scoring game environments. Yeah, certainly you're competing with Amon-Ra, Sam Laporta. David Montgomery is a little tricky, but he's going into year 2, 5.2 yards per attempt. Dan Campbell isn't afraid of some smash mouth football. They can get him going in the passing game. He's just a guy that's going to be playing in a bunch of high scoring games and is a big part of their offense. And the David Montgomery thing is slightly concerning. That's why I have him at 4, but I still think he projects to have a very, very good offensive season. Like it's, you can get cute and say, I guess I don't know what the case is against Jahmyr Gibbs, and probably a guy I need to have more of. He's being drafted pretty high, which makes him tough to get. But yeah, give me Jahmyr Gibbs at number 4.
The trouble is he's being drafted after basically he's being drafted 4th. And so by putting him 4th, you're maybe going to get him. But what I would challenge you with is when you're drafting at the tail end of the 1st round, are you looking, because I guess it's partially this just how the drafts are going, but like this part of the draft, it's like I'd rather take a receiver there and come back with Jonathan Taylor at the tail end of the 2nd round.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that you're right. Like that's probably why I don't have Jahmyr Gibbs. It's not that I'm not high on him. It's just there are receivers in that area that I probably like a little bit better. So when you're drafting in best ball, I don't end up with a ton of.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, I think it's hard to ignore what the coaches are saying about him, because that's the part where it's like, it does sound like he could become a little bit more of the bell cow. There are a lot of mouths to feed, but this team could score a ton of points. This team could lead the league in scoring. And so, I mean, I have him at 7, which makes him basically undraftable for me because I'm never going to get him. And I think I'm okay with that. I think I would much rather have some other pieces on Detroit than Jahmyr Gibbs, but I see the case. And, I've heard people make the case that Jahmyr Gibbs will be RB1 this year. Sure, if David Montgomery is not part of the picture and they are just everything is him, maybe. But even in that case, it's like Amon-Ra, like they're going to pass the ball. This is going to be a passing attack. And so I put him in there because I respect the explosiveness, but he's 7th, and which means I'm not drafting him much at all. All right, 5.
Yeah, who do you got number 5?
Josh Jacobs. I wanted to be high on him. I'm doing so like in practice. I'm willing to draft him, even as early as like the 2nd, 3rd round turn. I don't understand why he's being disrespected. He's going to a situation where he's replacing Aaron Jones, who had some huge games for that Matt LaFleur, kind of run first if he had his way offense. Now they have a passing game. And now they realize AJ Dillon's a bum. They got rid of Aaron Jones, and they drafted Marshawn Lloyd, who's probably projects to be more of a passing back. I don't think he's going to get the job right away. I think Josh Jacobs could be a bell cow, and I don't think he's being drafted as one. I don't think he's being ranked as one. And we've seen that he can carry the bell cow load. He's an absolute team player. He's going to be a locker room guy. I love Josh Jacobs here at number 5 as kind of like one of the guys I'm going to have a huge ownership in best ball. And even in season long managed, whatever, I like the situation, especially because I'm not super high on Jordan Love. I think they are going to have to rely on Josh Jacobs. And that's why they went out and signed him and paid him all that money. And another smart franchise paying dollars for running backs. I wonder why. So fifth on my list is Josh Jacobs. A little splashy, but I love him this year.
Yeah, I don't have him quite at number 5, but he's not too far off. For number 5, my number 5, Breece Hall. You laid out a good case for Breece Hall. I think the math, again, just being on the Jets is the only thing that scares me, right? And the Jets still do have some issues with their offensive line I think that's kind of really the biggest question. I thought it was a big question last year. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers ended up being the big question, but they still ended up 7-10. And if that line can hold together, Breece Hall should be good. 5 feels about right here. He's year 2 after that injury, which we see super explosive guys like Breece Hall have a good year the year after, but then really that year 2 is when you see them make a jump up. So yeah, give me Breece Hall at number 5. I like him. I don't necessarily love him. How say you on number 6, Kramer?
It's there, yeah. Derrick Henry. A lot of what you said earlier.
Dog.
I wasn't planning on ranking Derrick Henry because I did see like the people that say he's washed. I saw that last year, but I have like the case for him is easy to make this year. And sir, Keaton Mitchell's fun, but Keaton Mitchell's a different player than Derrick Henry. That we've seen this system now for a number of years, even with now Todd Monken coming in. They like to have multiple running backs because it allows them to do multiple things with Lamar. Keaton Mitchell, like they're going to have some smaller guys. They're going to have some bigger guys. But what did they use Gus Edwards for last year? Why did Gus Edwards go out and get a nice contract? How many touchdowns did Gus Edwards score? It's an easy formula. I think Derrick Henry does get less carries, but I think he's going to be way more efficient this year. And I think he's scoring double-digit touchdowns. So, yeah, he's washed, but I'll take him.
No, it's just a touchdown play, which again, perfect transition. Underdog Fantasy, touchdowns matter there. They matter everywhere. UnderdogFantasy.com. Get in. The pick'em's super fun. You can win up to 325 times your entry, which is insane. Of course, Kramer and I giving you a bunch of rankings here. Perfect. Take those over. If you're watching and you're consuming football content here on July 1st or after, you're a football junkie. Get going over on Underdog Fantasy, getting some of our live best ball drafts. Don't waste your time doing a mock draft. If you want to get ready for fantasy football, pay, they have like $1 tournaments, $3 tournaments just to see who's drafting what where, and you get a little skin in the game, and you get that sweet deposit bonus. UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code SGPN, up to $250 in bonus cash. We're also brought to you by Rhythm, sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm, your tool for AI picks, props, projections. The projection tool, I keep tinkering with some of the modeling. It is super fun. And if you don't want to make your own models, you could just use theirs. They've been crushing it right now in WNBA and golf. I was playing around with the golf model. Super easy to use. It's, hey, you're setting up for the next tournament. Do you want to factor in past performance, course fit? Maybe you think getting par 3, how well you do on par 3s is super important. Whatever it is, you customize it, and then it'll give you picks and backdate like how effective this model has been with those picks, showing you the ROI. It is super fun, and you get a free 7-day trial to get you started. They do have NFL, college football, so get in, start tinkering, and start your free trial today. sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM. Ryan, I think soccer may be done in America, right? Like this, soccer goes away after this, right?
Well, I think the problem is that, again, a lot of the soccer fans are probably rooting for the U.S. to not advance here, to once again put pressure on you want to talk about deep state? You have the U.S. Soccer Federation hiring Berhalter's brother to find the next coach after Berhalter's contract had been expired. and they found the next best coach would be Berhalter, who they just let. It's the dumbest shit. Like, you can't make this shit up. So yeah, maybe he gets fired, and maybe they actually have a good squad for the World Cup, which is in the United States, Sean. So you have to get excited about soccer.
You just mentioned him, but Josh Jacobs is my number 6 running back. You made a great case. This could be the bell cow back, and I think him to lead the league in rushing yards at 16-1. That's a fun bet. You look at 2022, that year he had, and of course he did get hurt because, as we know, you cannot have more than 339 touches and not get hurt the following year. It's a flexible formula depending on the running back and the year, but he got hurt in 2023. But 2024, assuming he's back to 100%, I think he should be. I think he's in a pretty good spot. AJ Dillon, there's talks they might cut him. Yeah, as you mentioned, Marshawn Lloyd is there, but I think he's got a pretty good path here. And the Packers made a choice of moving on from Aaron Jones and bringing in Josh Jacobs, a very deliberate choice. So I'm gonna ride with their move here, and I think Josh Jacobs has a big year. So yeah, Josh Jacobs, number 6.
I think they view it as they took Aaron Jones and they took AJ Dillon and they put it together and they made one player. That's my honest feel on what they did here. If we do these rankings in 2 months, I might have Josh Jacobs in the top 4. We'll see.
Yeah, no, I'm wondering if I should have him higher, but
all right, so we're on 7.
Yeah, who's your 7?
Jahmyr Gibbs. Jahmyr Gibbs was one of those guys that I understand the case. I just think it's gotten too far because of how many players are being drafted. I mean, you have Amon-Ra St. Brown, who's being drafted in the first round as like wide receiver 6. You have, or maybe even 5. You have Sam Laporta, who is tight end 1, and you have Jahmyr Gibbs, who is running back 4 by ADP, and then Jared Goff's like quarterback 15. None of that makes sense. And so, yeah, I think I like Jahmyr Gibbs. I would draft him in the second round. He just rarely falls there. So maybe if there's some correction in the market, I'll start drafting him. But until then, he'll just be my number 7 running back.
I got Bijan Robinson all the way down at 7. I got a lot of questions about this Atlanta Falcons offense. And could I be wrong about Bijan? Yeah, certainly. He has a nice upside. I don't know, something about it. I did predict he would get injured last year. He did not. I'm not as locked in as Bijan as I am on some running backs. I just don't see this Atlanta Falcons team putting up a ton of touchdowns. There's just so many red flags for a team that could go completely sideways. And there are, I don't know, I'm just doing the math on all these fantasy players that are ranked so high. I'm just super skeptical. And yeah, I still think he's very good. He's talented, but I don't know, man. I'm out on this Falcons team, especially on the offense. So Bijan at 7, I guess, is a fade. Some people will probably think it's crazy to say he's 7, but yeah, I'm just still suspect of the offense.
I think the difference, the game that I would play, like the game that I play with myself is, well, if the running back's the highest ranked guy, then I can talk myself into it. And I think that's where that's where I can make the case for Bijan for versus Jahmyr Gibbs, who I just brought up. Jahmyr Gibbs, it's hard for me to say he's going to be the top dog fantasy wise on his team. For Atlanta, it's easy for me to say that Bijan's the most likely guy because it relies less on the quarterback and everything else. But I see it. I also like Bijan does feel a little fragile to me. Like I still don't know what happened with the fake injury last year. What did he do to piss Arthur Smith off? Yeah, it just seems
Why
like
was he not getting more touches?
Yeah.
I mean,
that might have been an Arthur Smith thing.
Yeah, everyone just goes, Arthur Smith's a Dominic. He's a donkey. Arthur Smith is still kind of respected in the league. He did get another job pretty quickly. Maybe there was something that was going on with Bijan where he wasn't as obvious as a goal line back that people might think.
Yeah.
Who's your number 8, Kramer?
Well, Zamir White, baby.
Oh, nice.
Look, I've his own best ball wise, I'm drafting him almost every time. When we started in the offseason, Sean, he was going in the double digit rounds. He's down to about round 8, 9. As far as we can tell, studying the depth chart, there's no competition for him. The rookie they brought in is a stretch at best. They're gonna play a run first style with Antonio Pierce, and they have some nice weapons on the outside that will make it interesting for teams to load the box. So if you trust Gardner Minshew to get rid of the ball on time, which he was a Mike Leach guy, he knows how to do that well. He looked decent last year, so that tells me this team could have a little bit of a running attack. And when you think about, if this is successful and Zamir White gets 250 carries or something like that, a handful of catches, how does he not end up a top 10 guy? So obviously I don't need to draft him in the top 2 rounds. But am I making sure that if I'm building a, team where I'm drafting no running backs in the first 6 rounds that I'm getting Zamir White? Absolutely. Because I feel like more than most of these running backs, like, sure, the top guys, they're getting the carries, but I feel more confident than most that Zamir White is going to be one of the carry leaders. And it makes me think more, Sean, we should look into some sort of cute divisional rushing yards prop, because he plays in a division where he will not be the favorite.
And him and Carson Steele in the AFC West.
Well, I think that's a reason to throw shade at Pacheco, right? Carson Steele's in the building.
Well, I also have Zamir White as my number 8 here, fantasy football running back. You're nailing it with why we like Zamir White, and I think eye test wise, he's pretty interesting. He also finished really strong with the guy that we're projecting to make elite. Finishing strong, I think is huge, and of course that was when Antonio Pierce was the head coach. So you would imagine they would roll over some of the stuff they were doing when they were getting Zamir White involved a bunch. No competition, finishing very strong. I'm with you. Zamir White to have the most yards in the AFC West. I don't know. What do you think that's going to be priced at? Like 4-1 maybe?
I was trying to go through it in my head, and the Broncos have a number of guys, so that might be messy. The Chargers, it could be a messy situation with Gus Edwards, J.K. Dobbins, the rookie. I'm blanking on his name. So, maybe actually Zamir White would be the favorite. But even in that scenario, it's like, how big of a to me, Zamir White should be like massive chalk. I don't know who else is getting 200 plus carries in this division.
Also, let's go back to Isaiah Pacheco. I know everyone kind of has him high. He didn't make my top 12 here. And
205 carries for Pacheco last year. That's it.
Yeah. I would say this with Pacheco, he came out of nowhere, right? 7th round pick out of Rutgers. Why could you not say the same thing for Carson Steele? I mean, 7th round and undrafted is not really that much different. And, Carson Steele put up some numbers at UCLA, which is obviously now they're both in the Big Ten. But I think Carson Steele at least has a shot to make a little bit of noise on this Chiefs team, assuming he makes the team and assuming he's what Reed is looking for. Who's your number 9, Kramer?
Well, and real quick, one more note. And by the way, go watch Carson Steele at Ball State if you want to. I mean, I would imagine that. It's similar colors too. It's going to look good in Chiefs red. If you look at how many carries between Zamir White and Josh Jacobs last year, the Raiders had 337 carries. Like, okay, so Zamir White gets 250. Who's even getting those other 125? Like, this is insane. All right, we need to run to the window and make sure we're invested here. Number 9, I'm sure we're lockstep here, but the more that I think about this Bills team, the more that I think they're going to run the ball more, and the more that I want to have James Cook on my roster. And I will say this, my new favorite way to get Josh Allen on my team is a Josh Allen, James Cook, and a receiver stack. I like Kincaid. I think he's going to be a stud, but Josh Allen and James Cook even by themselves as a stack is very interesting. I think they're going to scoop up a ton of touchdowns around the red zone. The only reason James Cook is not higher is because he plays with Josh Allen. No different than what I was saying earlier with AR-15, what we were discussing with Saquon Barkley and Jalen Hurts. But man, it just seems like there is a tremendous opportunity here. And for those who don't know, He is the brother of Dalvin Cook. And fun fact, his name is James Dalvin Cook, just like his brother's name is Dalvin James Cook. Why did they do that? I'll never understand these kinds of things. Anyway, James Cook, the volume will be there. It's going to come down. I think it's going to come down to touchdowns, whether or not he's like a top 7 guy or a top 15 guy.
Yeah, I'm with you. I also have James Cook as number 9. I like the fact that they trusted him in the playoffs. I think that's always a huge thing. And also got involved in the passing game. Like he's a guy you wouldn't, or I don't know, off the top of my head.
4 receiving touchdowns. I mean, he definitely had an interesting, like he had a year that you are, when I look at it, it's like, huh, really? Okay. That's a pretty nice season. So yeah, I mean,
like nice jump up in the receptions from 21 to 44. From 2 years ago, 21 to 44 last year. So that I think is a good sign. And they're moving on from Stephon Diggs. I wouldn't be surprised if they run the ball a little bit more. So yeah, James Cook, man, and he's a dark horse, I think, for some of these long shot stuff, yardage wise. I think he's more. I like him a little bit more in fantasy because the half point PPR and him getting involved in the passing game. But yeah, I think he has a nice upside. So yeah, I'm with you on James Cook.
He had 237 carries last year.
Sorry, Ryan. Don't mind me. I'm just gonna rip up some of these stupid soccer tickets.
Okay, 237 carries last year for James Cook. Put him in 10th place in the league. And then you double click and you go look at his game log and you realize, oh my goodness, like he had single carry games early in the season. Then you look down the stretch and it's like 25, 20, 16, 30. I really think that the new look Buffalo Bills could include a lot more carries to James Cook. So yeah, I'm with you. This is another one that, he's going where? 4th, 5th round, certainly draftable, ranking him in the top 10.
Yeah, he was also added to my list of underdog guys I need more of. What about your number 10 fantasy football running back, Kramer? Who do you got?
Well, what if I told you last year this guy finished 5th in carries and he finished 6th in overall points? And now he's being drafted nowhere near that because he's old. He's on a new team, but that team produces running backs on the regular. And it's the Houston Texans. It's the Shanahan scheme. And it's Joe Mixon, who's fucking pissed. all this time I could have said fuck, and I waited to talk about Joe Mixon. So I also think he's on a team where with Steph Diggs, Nico Collins, Tank Dell, and CJ Stroud are all being drafted ahead of him. What do you think the likelihood, Sean, that all those players finish ahead of Joe Mixon in the standings?
Yeah.
He only scored 9 touchdowns last year on the ground. That seems like a easily repeatable number on this team, which again, you correlate your running backs to offense. And if they're going to be in the red zone a lot, he's going to score a lot of touchdowns. He had 52 catches. He had 3 receiving touchdowns. You don't think he might get involved in the receiving? And they hate Dameon Pierce. I know we like him, but they hate him, it seems. Yeah. So Joe Mixon seems like the guy that's getting lost in the shuffle because everyone wants the young kid. And, I absolutely have, I need to draft more of him, but in the range he's going, it seems reckless to be passing on him right now.
Yeah, I have him at 11, just missed my top 10 list. I'll reveal my number 10, Raheem Mostert. I mean, I love Raheem Mostert. I think he is a guy. He had 18 rushing touchdowns last year. Now, is he going to have 18 rushing touchdowns this year? No. But let's say he has like 8 or 9. He can have 8 or 9 and still crack the top 10 fantasy football running backs. And again, part of the reason I'm probably putting him on my top 10 is so that if you're playing best ball or you're doing even a managed league, you should have some Raheem Mostert. Like, I think the ceiling is still there for this guy. I know Devin Achan is good, and certainly the younger guy. I get it. I just think they still I think Mike McDaniel still likes Raheem Mostert. They paid Raheem Mostert, so I had to put him on the top 10. Give me Raheem Mostert.
It's a spicy take. Very spicy take. I think so.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. Well, not my spiciest take. My spiciest take is a guy who just missed the list, Christian McCaffrey. I gave him 12 just so we could talk about him, but unfortunately, this is projecting as an injury year for Christian McCaffrey. He had 339 touches in the regular season, and you had all those playoff touches. Every time he's had that amount of touches, he's been injured the following year. Kramer, the stats don't lie. Christian McCaffrey, unfortunately, is not going to play 17 games. He played an insane amount of games last year and had an insane amount of carries and touches. He just got paid. He just got married. He's fat, happy. He's the only running back that got like a bonus contract on top of it. He reset the market. He's going to be drained. All his tea is going to be gone because he's with Olivia Culpo. He's got nothing left in the tank. I gave him 12 because I do think while he is healthy for that part of the year, he will be obviously super productive fantasy-wise, but he will not crack the top 10. Mark it, dude.
All right.
Kramer, have I not correctly predicted a Christian McCaffrey injury season before?
Yeah, let's make sure we get the breaking. Can we put the breaking news graphic out? Like breaking news, Christian McCaffrey will get hurt week 6. People will get so angry at you. They'll be so mad at you. Can't do that. All right. Just missed the list.
Predict injuries. No, I mean, sometimes I'm fucking around when we're talking about predicting injuries. I'm not here. That's an insane amount of touches. This is why running backs don't get paid, because when you have an insane workload, you get injured the following season. It's not rocket science. It's not advanced analytics. Show me another guy besides the alien that is Derrick Henry that is doing 350, 360 plus and not getting hurt the next season. Josh Jacobs was a guy who got hurt in 2023. Why? Look at all the targets, all the touches he had in 2022. It's not rocket science.
All right. Just missed for me. Najee Harris. Wanted to make sure this was a selfish play, but I mean, all right, Sean, again, I highly encourage people to make your own rankings for fantasy football. Where do you think Najee Harris finished last year on the carries list?
Oh, he had a ton of carries, and that was even with Jaylen Warren getting involved.
255 carries. How many carries do you think he has with Arthur Smith?
I think it's going to be around that, if not a little bit higher. And he lost some weight. He's a little bit more, he's slimmed down. And I don't know how I didn't have Najee on my list. But, yeah, I think he's a super interesting, especially where we're drafting him in underdog. Najee Harris is great. Like, if you're just going to load up on receivers first, get you a Zamir White, get you a Najee, get you a Josh Jacobs. These are guys that are going to be able to carry the load offensively. And Jaylen Warren is fun, but clearly they like both guys.
Yeah, Najee and Jaylen Warren are both going in like the 8-9 round area. So it seems like that's a situation you can probably take both guys. Other guy that just missed was Saquon Barkley. Unfortunately, I think you laid out the case. I don't think they're going to stop using the tush push. AJ Brown, Devonta Smith, Dallas Goedert all exist. Part of the reason why Saquon Barkley had production on the Giants is he was the only guy he was heavily used, and it was a volume thing. He wasn't very efficient. And so he's going to be more efficient. It's simple to think that, but I see people talking about him getting involved in the passing game and putting down. He's not that kind of back. He's not going to get. I mean, first of all, the Eagles don't use the back that much in the passing game. Jalen Hurts doesn't throw to the back that much, and Saquon Barkley is not the best pass catching back. He's not the best pass blocking back, and so I would be surprised if they're going to heavily utilize him in that either. So put him on the outside looking in here. I think he's most likely getting drafted late first, early second. So I'm not going to have a ton of Saquon. Sean, you don't have a ton of Saquon. So, I don't think you're super confident on Saquon relative to the other Eagles from a fantasy perspective.
Yeah, I see the concern, but Gotta show face. Gotta
I'm already
represent.
wearing you down. We're only in July 1st. You gotta come on.
No, I think you hit on some good stuff, and I think part of the reason they didn't throw the running backs previously is because they didn't have a good pass catching running back like Saquon Barkley. I think the fact they brought him in, they wanted to use the running back passing option more. So I think that's where you're slightly off. And this Eagles offense, I think, has enough juice to carry all these guys.
Yeah, no, I mean, it literally is where the contract stuff broke down with the Giants. They were not going to pay him like a pass catching back, and he wanted pass catching back money. So glad that Howie gave him the money.
Well, again, I mean, they also got AJ Brown signed, Devonta Smith signed, Jalen Hurts signed. Name me
Completely
another
unrelated.
GM. Name me. Oh, what do you
It's
mean
unrelated.
it's unrelated? They're all the same salary cap.
Just because you do
related?
doing three good things doesn't mean you can't do a bad thing. And I'm just saying that,
But
it's
doing
fun.
three good things, maybe you're good at doing that thing.
Okay. I mean, again, your tune has changed. We're going to put together some sort of super cut up of John talking Saquon Barkley for the NFL.
You might be able to get that, but you're not going to follow through with it. So
any
that's
other
a red pipe block.
I'm sure we'll do a sleepers episode closer to draft time, but any other guys, the running back position is more of a wait and see position for us nowadays that we're sharp drafters. Any other guys you want to throw out as a bring awareness to?
Yeah, I mean, there's that, the guys that just miss pile that's pretty interesting. Like Rashad White, I still think was close to getting on my list. You named Najee, I think certainly makes a ton of sense. Even, I guess hopefully we can get a little more clarity on the Broncos situation, but Jaleel McLaughlin, I think is kind of intriguing. Someone that you can get at a super discounted price. Even Tajay Spears has sleeper stuff written all over him. He's probably a tough guy to draft in a managed league, but best ball, he's probably some guy I want a little bit more of. Not totally sold on Tony Pollard there.
Yeah, so the consensus guys we missed completely. Kyron Williams, who he was on the list, then he was off the list, and then he was on the list. I haven't been drafted.
Foot injuries scare me for running backs, so maybe I drafted him. To that.
Yeah, I drafted him early. Certainly he'd have to have some good touchdown efficiency, but like you mentioned with Mostert, he can dip back a little bit and still be amazing. Travis Etienne, another kind of consensus top guy that we both missed. I think his volume is there. He's kind of like Rashad White to me.
Yeah.
They rely on volume, and if they take a little bit of a step back, I'm not that interested. Devin Otchen's the other one. I mean, when we started doing best ball in the offseason, he was going middle of the second round ahead of Derrick Henry, and it seemed a little silly. You laid out the case during when we talked about Mostert, but yeah, it just seems like we didn't watch the games last year if we think Otchen's going to be the guy all season. One guy I would throw out there more down the board, related to Joe Mixon talk. Joe Mixon had a good year last year, and Zach Moss is going to be getting a lot of that workload. I know Chase Brown is there for some pass catching stuff, but Zach Moss could end up being a double-digit touchdown guy. He's pretty down the board. And one more even further down the board because everyone's so hot up on Jonathan Brooks. We don't think Jonathan Brooks going to play? Like Chuba Hubbard, as I was doing the prep for this episode, who pops up when you sort by the old carry metrics? Well, Chuba Hubbard had 238 carries last year. Not very efficient with it, 3.8 yards a carry, but I'm not exactly sure who's going to get the carries early in the season.
Yeah, he's interesting, right? Because maybe he's actually one of those guys that's better for manage because I guess at some point they will give it to Jonathan Brooks and then you don't have to start him anymore. But you in a managed league, like you can get him for pretty much free and he's going to get a bunch of work. I mean, what are they going to have Bryce Young throw 40 times? Like, and I'm with you. I'm super skeptical of Jonathan Brooks being a day one starter. I just, again, super skeptical in that. And certainly kind of a dark horse best ball guy too.
Well, and especially if you're doing the zero RB in best ball is a little easier because you can grab some guys and they'll pop up. But in managed, you want to, if you're going zero RB, you do need some guys are going to play, and that's where the Chuba Hubbards come in handy because they're going to play, they're going to get a volume. and you can get them late. And so whether that's Najee Harris, Samir White, further down the board, Chuba Hubbard, those guys are they're boring though, and you're eventually going to cut them, but they'll get you through the first couple of weeks.
Yeah, and for your 0 RB, those are guys that can hold down the fort until your rookie running back, some of the guys you have popping up later. Actually,
Gus Edwards.
He's the one that's actually getting paid, and J.K. Dobbins isn't, right?
Yeah, no, it's a good note to have. J.K. Dobbins, $50K in guaranteed money. Gus Edwards, $3.5 million. So I wonder who's going to get more work.
$50K. That's like a NBA 10-day contract. Like what?
J.K. Dobbins was the dude that hacked the running back Zoom call and showed up. He wasn't invited. He's held out like 4 times already in his career. He's unbelievable.
None of it seems to work. Okay. Hey, good times. We will be doing our top 10 fantasy football receivers tomorrow. Tune into our VSiN show, 6 o'clock East, 3 o'clock Pacific, VSiN.com. Check that out over there. Check out the Patreon. The Bobby Petrino Forensics Files was a lot of fun. And yeah, Kramer, let's and stay subscribed to the YouTube. We will be firing up for live slot machine NFL run. Maybe tonight, maybe tomorrow, maybe Wednesday night. Who knows? Stay tuned. Get in the Circa Millions contest. Come out and hang out with us in Vegas. It's a good time. Underdog Fantasy, promo code SGPN for the Sports Gambling Podcast. I'm Sean, second the money green. He is Ryan.
First running back episode we've done in a long time with no Aaron Jones talk.
Kramer, let it ride.